Welcome to my step-by-step guide for how to reach the Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, quickly and easily with a new character. This method takes me less than 2 hours from character creation to DLC, and it's fairly easy. We don't even need to fight Mohg straight up. We'll be using a strategy that I discovered to completely stunlock him. And Radahn is almost a scripted fight if you wait for the right opening. By the time you reach the DLC, you'll already be around level 80 with 60 Vigor, and you'll have access to the best farming spot in the game if you want more levels. Let's get started. We'll start with the Samurai class and pick the Golden Seed as the keepsake. Touch First Step Grace, and then talk to Varré and exhaust his dialogue. Then on to the Church of Elleh, grab the rune outside, then touch the Grace and pop the rune because we're going to buy a crafting kit from Collei. Then on to Gatefront Ruins and rest at the Grace to get Torrent. You can also grab the map nearby, but then we're going to head west through the gate. Follow the path, grab the Golden Seed on the way, and straight ahead is Stormhill Shack. Touch the Grace there. From Stormhill Shack, here's the path to grab the Strength Physic on the cliff here. Then drop down the cliff and go to Warmaster Shack here, grab the Grace. Here's the Strength Physic at the top of the cliff. Then look for a safe spot to drop down. After you drop down, go east and touch the Warmaster Shack Grace. The reason we get this shack is because it's a great source of root resin. Here's where you can find a few root resins. We'll use it to craft blood grease, and you can rest to respawn those items. Then from Gatefront, we're going to follow this path across the bridge, grab a Somber 1 here, and then a gold pickled Foulfoot on the cliff there. So here's where we get the Somber 1. Then turn around, we're going to go to the top of that cliff. And here's the gold pickled Foulfoot. Try not to get slapped around by a random mob. And then we're going to head to Agheel Lake South Grace. So touch that Grace. Here it is on the map. Then we're going to go south and pick up a Stone Sword key on the bridge here, and then touch Bridge of Sacrifice Grace for later. Here's the path to the Stone Sword key. I forgot to record this part until later, which is why my health bar is larger right now. And we'll grab this Grace for later. Then back to Agheel Lake South. Then we're going to drop down the cliff here and go on to Fort Height and grab the Grace. There's a few things we'll get in Fort Height. Here's the path from Agheel Lake South Grace. And we'll find a good spot to drop down the cliff here. And then straight ahead is Fort Height. So after grabbing the Grace, here's the path we'll take through Fort Height and the items we'll collect. First, pick up a Blood Rose here, then a Golden Seed. Then we're going to go inside the fort. Keep moving because there's a lot of enemies. Pick up the Blood Roses in the courtyard here. Then go up the stairs and into this little room to grab the Nomadic Warriors Cookbook 6, and that will allow us to craft blood grease using blood roses and root resin. And then go up through the fort as usual to the top, up the stairs to grab the first half of the Dectus Medallion. Then we're going to take the road north to the Third Church of Marika. At the Third Church of Marika, of course, we're going to grab our Wondrous Physic and a Sacred Tear while we're here. Then jump out the back into the pond and find the transporter to go to Dragonbarrow. In Dragonbarrow, take the road south and pick up the Golden Seed along the way, and then touch the Farm Great Bridge Grace, because we'll return here later. Then go across the bridge, keep moving, and the dragon usually won't hurt you. And then right after the bridge, turn left and into the graveyard to pick up some runes. Then head southwest towards the minor Erdtree. Go past the Erdtree and to the Spirit Spring behind. Jump up and continue straight ahead to Fort Feroth. We'll touch the Grace and then go inside the fort, up to the top, of course, for the second half of the Dectus Medallion. And then follow this path to pick up a Golden Rune 12 and the Radagon Soreseal. Here's the Golden Rune 12. Then jump across the gap and keep moving so the rats don't hit you. And here's Radagon's Soreseal. Then you can let the rats kill you or use your Memory of Grace. Then craft as much blood grease as you can. And we're going to equip the Radagon Soreseal. And also equip your Gold Pickled Foulfoot and Blood Grease. Then two-hand the Uchigatana and go over to the Stationary Dragon Grey Roll. I recommend buffing with your Blood Grease and attack the dragon in groups of 5 hits and pause in between to regain stamina. And then once the dragon dies, pop your Gold Pickled Foulfoot. You have a few seconds to do it. Then head back to the Grace, and we will level up. So level Dexterity to exactly 20, and put the rest into Vigor. Then we're going to head west towards this white clump in the distance, and right next to it is a Spirit Spring. Drop down the Spirit Spring and continue straight forward to the Church of the Plague. Pick up the Sacred Tear, and then rest, and then upgrade your flasks as much as you can. Then set up your Wondrous Physic and select the Strength Knot Crystal Tier. Then warp to Aegeo Lake South. From Aegeo Lake South Grace, go up the hill to the Forlorn Hound Everjail, and we're going to fight the Bloodhound Knight Darawil. So drink your Wondrous Physic, buff the Uchigatana with Blood Grease, and two-hand it. And I recommend just using the weapon art, Unsheath. You can hold left trigger, of course, and then press right trigger to do the heavy version of the weapon art. And if you do 3 of those quickly enough, you'll stagger him. And after that, you should be able to finish him off before he can do anything else. And we get the Bloodhound Fang. Then take that to the Church of Ella, and pop any runes that you have, and then we're going to level the Bloodhound Fang to +1, and then spend any remaining runes by leveling Vigor. Then warp to the First Step Grace, and here's the path you can take to get a Gold Pickled Foulfoot. This is optional, but if you pop this right after defeating Mohg later, you'll get a lot more runes, and that's what enables us to reach almost level 80 by the end of this run. So then we'll go to Stormhill Shack, and take the normal path up to Stormveil Castle to fight Margit. So drink your Wondrous Physic, apply Blood Grease to the Bloodhound Fang, and two-hand it. And I'm purposely going to fight kind of carelessly, just to show that we're pretty strong against Margit here. It's good to still dodge some of his attacks, but you can be pretty aggressive, and you can tank a lot of hits. I recommend using the weapon art mostly, with left trigger of course, but you can also immediately follow it up with a right trigger heavy attack, and that'll do a special follow-up that has iframes. Remember that if you run out of Blood Grease, you can just go back to Fort Height to get more Blood Roses, and to the War Master Shack to get more Root Resin. And if you keep up the pressure, you should get a stagger. And then we can finish off Margit. Then go up towards the castle, and we'll talk to Gostok and ask him to open the main gate. And while the gate's opening, you can level up, as usual, just level Vigor. So here's the path I like to take through Stormveil Castle to avoid the ballistas. And meanwhile, I just wanted to thank you for watching. And if you found this channel through Iron Pineapple, then welcome. I've been a fan of his channel for a while, so it was really awesome to see that he used my Mohg strategy in his latest video, starting the DLC with nothing. So thanks to his shout out, that brought a lot more traffic to my video of how to cheese Mohg. So anyway, if you're here from Iron Pineapple, then welcome. And maybe stick around if you like what you see. So here we'll grab the golden seed, and then I like to stay against the wall to avoid the enemies up ahead. And then we'll grab the Grace and get ready to fight Godrick the Grafted. So drink your Physic, buff the Bloodhound Fang with Blood Grease as usual. And just like with Margit, we're pretty strong against Godrick. You will have to be a little more careful though, but you can still be aggressive. And down goes Godrick the Grafted. And on to Liurnia of the Lakes. We're going to make a left and head to the Church of Erith nearby for a sacred tear. Then go down to the lake. And as you approach the lake, I recommend pulling up your map, find the map obelisk. And from the map obelisk, you can go northwest along this ruined wall until you get to the Laskir Ruins Grace. And here that is on the map. And next we're finally going to go to Roundtable Hold and talk to Enia the Finger Reader. Then go back to Laskir Ruins, and then we're going to go and get the Dexterity Tier here. Here's the path to the Dexterity Tier. I forgot to record this part of the run, so I had to do it with a new character. That's why my health bar is smaller now. And up on this little hill, at the top we'll find the Dexterity Tier. Then go back to Laskir Ruins, and we're going to go to the gazebo and use the transporter. The transporter will take us to South Raya Lucaria Gate, touch the Grace, and then from here we're going to make a trick jump. And here's how you do it. And then we're going to head southwest towards the Rose Church. You can see it there in the distance. And we're going to talk to Varé and tell him that didn't seem right, or they didn't seem right. And he'll give you the Festering Bloody Fingers. While you're here, there's like, I think 9 blood roses in the church, so you can pick those up. Then warp back to South Raya Lucaria Gate. We'll make the same trick jump as before, except this time go northeast and go past Academy Gate Town to this gazebo all by itself and take the transporter, which will take us to King Realm Ruins. So go north and along the cliff and keep going. You can double jump this gap, and here's Iji. We'll touch the Grace here because Iji is going to be our main blacksmith for the game. And pop the Remembrance of Godrick the Grafted, then buy a Somber 2, 3, and 4, and then upgrade the Bloodhound Fang to +4. And then level Vigor. You should have almost 40 by now. So here's the path we're about to take, past Caria Manor, through the pond and across this rock bridge, and then go up into Bellum Church for a sacred tier. Then I like to go up the cliffs and around to avoid the catapults, and then up the Grand Lift of Dectus. So if you stay to the right near the cliff, you can avoid the magic. And then go across this pond, and on the other side, we can find the rock bridge. So after you drop down, turn right and go up the cliff, and then make a left into Bellum Church for a sacred tier. And then go across the road. Like I said, I like to go up the cliffs on the right side to avoid the catapults, and then drop down up ahead and go to the Grand Lift of Dectus. And of course we'll take the Grand Lift to Altus Plateau. And as soon as you arrive in Altus, turn left and head towards the first grace here. Touch that grace. And you might want to grab this map fragment, I forgot to show it. And then the main path we'll take is up the grand stairs. There's 2 golden seeds and another map fragment here. Then 2 more golden seeds here, and then we'll touch Outer Wall Battleground Grace. When you approach the grand stairs, I recommend coming from the side like that, then you won't get hit by the ballistas. Then we'll grab the golden seed and the second map fragment. Then up the stairs, and there's 2 more golden seeds. Then straight ahead to the Outer Wall Battleground Grace. Upgrade your healing flask as far as you can, and equip the Dexterity tier to your Wondrous Physic. If you need root resin for more blood grease, warp to the War Master Shack, or if you need more blood roses, go to the Rose Church, and resting will respawn those items. So, from Outer Wall Battleground, we'll go northwest through the gate, past the catapults, and pick up a golden seed here. Then drop down and we'll get a Somber Smithing Stone 5 on the cliff here. Then go north and around, and for reference, by the crossroads here there's a couple windmills, and then under the bridge there's a grace, and then if we continue we'll get to Writhe-Blood Ruins, and here we're going to fight an NPC. And then we'll continue, there's a spirit spring here, we can drop down and go south to another Church of Marika for a sacred tier. So here's that path. We'll go out through the gate, past the catapults. If you take that path, they usually don't hit you. And here's the golden seed, and then we'll drop down and go towards the Somber Smithing Stone 5. And here it is near the edge of the ruins on the corpse. Then turn around and go back north. And eventually you should find the road. And then we're going to turn left. Here's the windmills we marked for reference. And then under the bridge, if you keep right, there's a grace. And then continue ahead past the caravan, and we'll reach Writhe-Blood Ruins. I recommend stopping here so you don't aggro the dogs. So drink your Wondrous Physic, buff with blood grease, and we're going to go inside the ruins here and find the invasion sign for Magnus. So touch the sign, we'll invade him. Now if you kill Magnus, that will fulfill Vare's quest, and you'll also get a Somber 6. Magnus can be tricky, so if you can't kill him, don't worry. Just invade him 3 times, and that will also fulfill Vare's quest. But you won't get a Somber 6. Not to worry, though. I'm going to show where we can get a Somber 6 if you don't kill Magnus here. I'll show that in a moment. So with Magnus down, we get our Somber 6. And here's the path from Writhe-Blood Ruins, where we can get the Sacred Tier. So notice there's a bridge ahead, but instead we'll turn left and drop down the cliff. And ahead we can drop down the Spirit Spring, and then continue straight ahead to the Church of Marika for a Sacred Tier. And so now, if you did not kill Magnus, we need to get a Somber 6. So here's the path. You can drop down a Spirit Spring and go to Old Altus Tunnel. So here's that path. Here's the Spirit Spring. And this is why we got 2 Stone Sword keys earlier, to open Old Altus Tunnel. But if you're confident with Magnus, then you don't need to get the Stone Sword keys. And here's the path through the tunnel. Keep right, and then go up the ladder. And then to the left, by the shed, is our Somber 6. Now warp to South Raya Lucaria Grace, go to the Rose Church and talk to Vare. Tell him, anoint me, and he'll give you the Lord of Blood's favor. And now we need to warp to Bridge of Sacrifices Grace, and go here to the NPC Irina. Unfortunately, we need to kill her, or at least that's the quickest way to do this part of the quest. And then next, warp to Altus Plateau Grace, and then we'll go to Lux Ruins. Here's the treasure room, and defeat the boss. Should be pretty easy at this point. And here's the Ritual Sword Talisman. Then warp to the Road to the Manor Grace, and use Iji to upgrade the Bloodhound Fang to +6. And then level up your healing flask as far as you can. And don't forget to equip the Ritual Sword Talisman. And now warp to Church of the Plague. Here's a trick jump you can do to get to Radahn's arena quicker. So you ride as fast as you can, jump at the last second, and then as soon as the camera pans down, do the second jump. And if you do it right, you'll land on the ground at the very bottom. You can tell you did it right if you get a Stake of Marika prompt. So resurrect at the Stake of Marika, and it brings us to Radahn. Or you can just go the normal route, take your horse and ride to the south part of Caelid, and start the Radahn Festival as normal. Either way, we'll take on Radahn. As soon as you enter Radahn's arena, summon your horse and ride away from him until he despawns. You might need to go sideways to avoid an arrow. Then go back towards him, and if you did it right, you don't have to worry about the arrows anymore. So use your Physic, buff with Blood Grease, and I recommend waiting for a specific opening. So not this one, we're going to back off. Try again. This opening, this is what we want. So get off your horse, and just keep right next to his feet, and just spam light attacks until you get a bleed proc. And at this health threshold, Radahn will always perform this move, that way you'll know how to deal with it each time. Dodge the gravity pull here, and then go in front of Radahn so he'll start to do the explosion, but go behind Radahn to avoid the explosion. And meanwhile you can get a lot of damage in. In fact, if you're aggressive enough you might be able to kill him before the phase change, but it's not required. So watch the sky. If possible you want to be close to Radahn after he lands, because that way you'll trigger him to always do the same move here. I could have done a follow-up and killed him, except I ran out of stamina. But it's okay, as you can see we can take a few hits. So if I hadn't messed that up, it would have been pretty much a scripted fight, like he'll always do the same moves if you do it like that. So pop Radahn's Remembrance, and then level Vigor as usual. And then we're going to warp to Round Table Hold, talk to Ania the Finger Reader again. And then warp to the Outer Wall Battleground, and we're going to head towards the Draconic Tree Sentinel. I like to quit out here so the giant archer doesn't aggro. So drink your Strength and Dexterity Physic, and buff with Blood Grease. And of course we already have the Radagon Sword Seal and Ritual Sword Talisman equipped from before. You can get a few free hits at the start of the fight. And I'll show the strategy that I like. Generally I stay towards the shield side. But you can also cheese the Draconic Tree Sentinel really easily with Poison Mist, and I'll show where to get the items for that after this fight. And I'll also link a video in the description that shows you how to perform it, but it's pretty simple. You basically just crouch and sneak up behind the Sentinel and cast Poison Mist until it's dead. It's quite easy. You do need to get the Two-Finger Heirloom Talisman so you have enough faith for Poison Mist incantation, and again I'll show the location in a moment. And of course you need to get the Finger Seal, I think it is, from the Twin Maiden Husks in Round Table Hold. If you need more tips on bosses, you can find my first video on my channel, How to Beat Elden Ring in One Sitting, and I've got a more thorough breakdown of each boss, at least the way that I like to fight them. There I was trying to run away because you can outspace that, but I ran into the rocks. But as you can see, we can take some damage and still end up getting the win. Now if you want to cheese Draconic Tree Sentinel, get Poison Mist. So warp to Bridge of Sacrifices Grace, and then go south to get the map from the obelisk. So here's the map, there's the obelisk, and then here's Poison Mist. It drops from a teardrop scarab that disappears if you approach, so I like to use the bow with Mighty Shot. The samurai already comes with it. And then to raise our faith, we need to get the Two-Finger Heirloom Talisman. It's right over here in the Purified Ruins, because otherwise we won't have enough faith to cast the Poison Mist incantation. So break the rubble, and here's the hidden entrance, and from the chest we get Two-Finger Heirloom Talisman. Then from Round Table Hold, you can get the Finger Seal from the Twin Maiden Husks. In the video description, I linked a video for how to perform the strategy, but basically you just sneak up behind and cast Poison Mist until dead. So run through the capital as normal until you get to this fire-breathing statue. Jump to the right, off the balcony, and on top of these golden rooftops. And then just continue straight ahead, and then turn left and follow the avenue. And then past the avatar that drops down, there's a doorway to the right. So go in the doorway, and here is Avenue Balcony Grace. Touch the Grace, and I recommend killing the avatar. You don't have to, but it drops a Lord Rune. I recommend charged heavy attacks and jumping attacks. Then pop the Lord Rune, and I recommend leveling Endurance, but you could also level Vigor. And then from Avenue Balcony Grace, here's the path we can take to get a Somber 7, Somber 8, and Mohg Shackle. So here we're going to jump onto the roof, and then into the well. And then open the door and just run straight ahead through the level until you get to another door. And then turn left, drop down, and we're in the Subterranean Shunning Grounds. So go left and grab the Grace. And then here's the path we can take. First we'll get the Somber 8. So drop down here. It can be kind of dark, so you could buy a torch from Kale. Hug the left wall so you don't fall through that opening. And then here again, hug the left wall so you don't fall through. There's an ambush you can dodge, but it's not very dangerous. And then here, this item is the Somber Smithing Stone 8. Then immediately go up the ladder so you don't get attacked. Turn right, and then we'll open this gate. This is the room we already came from, but keep going. And on the left, you can drop down. And then here's where you want to drop straight down onto the pipe. And there's a crayfish that's patrolling back and forth. Make sure he's not looking when you drop down. Grab the Somber 7. And then I usually just roll spam to this cave. Turn right and grab the Grace. And rest. That way you can de-aggro the crabs. And if you crouch and stick to the right, you can get Mohg Shackle. The crayfish will get up but won't see you. And then you can open your map and warp out. So warp to Farum Great Bridge Grace, and we're going to get a Somber 9 here. So just go west, and there's a scarab by the pillars there. So here's the scarab, and we'll kill it for a Somber 9. And then talk to Vare until he gives you the Pureblood Knight's Medal. Then go to your inventory and use it, and it will transport you to Mohgwyn Palace. Then just follow the path. And I finally got a torch from Kale because this cave is really dark. So here's the path through the cave. So turn right here, and then grab the Lord Rune by the obelisk. And there's the exit. And we'll grab the Grace ahead. And from this Grace, we can get the Somber Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone. I recommend approaching from the side or behind so you don't aggro that whole mob. And I like to aggro this enemy and then jump up here. You can do a suicide run as long as you get the item, it doesn't matter. Then warp back to EG, pop the Lord rune you just got, and fully upgrade the Bloodhound Fang to +10. And then level Endurance, or you could level Vigor. We're about to perform a strategy that will completely stunlock Mohg. It may take some practice, but once you learn it, it's very consistent. But you need to have the right setup. Hopefully you've been following this guide, but let's double check everything. You need a fully upgraded Bloodhound Fang, Radagon Sword Seal, Ritual Sword Talisman, Blood Grease, Mohg Shackle, and optionally Gold Pickled Foul Feet. And for the Physick, we've got the Strength and Dexterity Physick. Now let's check our attack power. So drink your Wondrous Physick, two-hand the Bloodhound Fang, and go to your stats menu. You should have 12 Strength and 20 Dexterity, but with Radagon Sword Seal and the Wondrous Physick, you can see that increases our stats to 27 Strength and 35 Dexterity. And if you look in the top right corner, the attack power of our Bloodhound Fang is 730. Now, if your attack power is higher or lower than 730, this strategy may not work. But there are ways to raise or lower your attack power without having to respec. There's a Google document in the description. Check near the end of that document for ways to adjust your attack power. Here's the strategy for Mohg. Drink your Wondrous Physick, enter the boss arena, apply Blood Grease to your Bloodhound Fang +10, and get ready to use Mohg Shackle. But first approach Mohg. You might need to dodge his first combo because we don't want to lose the Ritual Sword Talisman buff. When you're close, use the Shackle and immediately do 3 light attacks and 1 regular heavy attack. Then step to the right and behind Mohg, and right after his animation, use the Shackle again. Then immediately 3 more light attacks and 1 heavy attack. Then step to Mohg's left, and right after the animation, do the Weapon Art. Then immediately a heavy attack follow-up. Then go up against Mohg and take the critical. Then walk forwards and do the Weapon Art. Then immediately a heavy attack follow-up, and 1 more Weapon Art will kill him. Then pop your Gold Pickled Foul Foot. You've got a few seconds to do that, and you should have access to the DLC. Let's break down the strategy in case you're having trouble. Here's a few different openings you could get. If you don't get an opening you're comfortable with, you can just let Mohg kill you, because remember, it's easy to craft more Blood Grease. Sometimes you won't have to dodge at all if you get lucky. Here's the strategy in slow motion. So right after the Shackle, we'll use 3 light attacks and 1 regular heavy attack, not a charged heavy. And notice that the heavy attack causes a bleed proc. Then step to the right, don't sprint, and go behind Mohg. And right after you see the red ring around you, then after that, use the Shackle for the second time. Then immediately 3 light attacks and 1 heavy attack. And you should be behind Mohg, although it's fine if you're also to Mohg's left side, but you don't want to be in front of Mohg for this combo. Then step to Mohg's left, and right after you see the second ring around your character, perform the Weapon Art, and Mohg should stagger. Then immediately do the heavy attack follow-up, then walk up against Mohg and take the critical. Then walk forwards and do a Weapon Art. Don't do this too late or you'll get hit by the animation. Then immediately do a heavy attack follow-up, and immediately another Weapon Art. And that should kill Mohg. Here's why you don't want to be in front of Mohg during your second attack combo. So here I'm using the Shackle for the second time, and notice I'm standing to Mohg's left side, which is fine, but then I gradually move in front of Mohg, and that's not good. So my last attack hits him in the front and does a bleed proc. We don't want to bleed proc at the end of the second combo. I think maybe it happens because Mohg is more vulnerable on his head, but notice that now Mohg will transition between his animations with no pause at all, making him completely invulnerable to stagger. And this problem can also happen if your attack power is too high. The strategy works if you stay on Mohg's left side the whole time. You don't actually have to go behind Mohg. The only reason I suggested going behind Mohg after the first combo was to make it less likely that players would accidentally hit Mohg in the front during the second combo. But you can just stay on Mohg's left side if you're more comfortable doing that. So in this fight I stayed on Mohg's left side, maybe slightly behind him, but pretty much to his left. And then after the critical attack, you can just stay in front of Mohg. Just do the weapon art quickly enough so you don't get hit by the animation. If you're still having trouble, there's a link to a Google document in the description, and near the end of the document there's a troubleshooting section. Once Mohg is defeated, rest at the Grace, which will spawn the NPC, and then you can go touch the Withered Arm to enter the DLC. Thanks so much for joining me on this run. If there are any updates, I'll put it in the Google document linked in the description. See you in Shadow of the Erdtree.